Greetings everyone, and welcome back into the workshop on part 2 of making this beautiful little Cable-Damascus knife. If you haven't seen part 1, go watch that first because this is part 2, the continuation of part 1. For those of you who did see part 1, you'll remember we have the blade to this point. Also in part 1, I showed the Claro walnut burl that we will be using for the handle, and our next step is to trace this tang onto the wood so we can line up the grain of the wood where we want it on the handle. You see, that's how we can plan how the wood will look on the handle. So let's go ahead and go trace this tang shape onto this wood, and we'll see how this comes together. Alrighty everyone, it's been just a moment since I talked to you. Here's what we've done. We located the positions, drilled the holes, and installed the pins in the pieces of wood here, and it fits beautifully. Now what we need to do is we need to sand this front end of the handle. We need to sand that piece of wood to where it's finally going to be its final shape. Why do we need to do it now? Because now we can access it. Once these pieces of wood are glued onto this handle, we're not going to be able to sand this front very easily. Even if we tried, we would risk scratching that Damascus pattern, which we do not want. So we're going to sand those now, and that will make our job so much easier down the road. So everybody, we have now arrived at that time of knife making that's really exciting, yet at the same time it'll make you a little nervous sometimes. It's time to glue the handle. We have the blade with the tang all ground clean, we have the handle material, we have the epoxy, and we have those 2 pine scales, and that's what will be on the outside of the handle when we clamp it in the vise. That's what the extra pin stock will stick out into. Let's mix up that epoxy and glue it. Alrighty, it's all glued. I've just pushed these scales together and made sure all my pins are centered. Now, it is time to push all this stuff aside. A big old mess. We're going to put this between these scales. Alright, looks good. And we're going to open the vise. I really should have opened this beforehand. Line the handle up in the center. And, oh, that's not good at all. There we go. And clamp it down. Now you'll hear a cracking noise. Maybe you can. That's just the pins pressing into the wood. Okay, I'm going to look at it, make sure it's centered. It's not centered. I need to lift it in the jaws just a little bit. All right, clamp it down again. Look at it now. Everything's looking pretty good. So now I can really put some tension on it. Alrighty, so the back of the handle is in the center, the front of the handle is in the center, and this handle is small enough. This vise is all I need. If the handle were really big, I'd put a C-clamp like what we used earlier on the back, but I don't need that here. Okay, now come look around the front here. If you look right down in there, actually on both sides, there's some excess epoxy sticking out because we just clamped it. Now is the time to remove that. Just gonna take a small flathead screwdriver, press it in a rag, and drag it up that seam. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side. Alrighty everyone, this knife is glued. It should be good to just sit now. I think we're done. Hey, Kenton, actually you need to clean the shop. Oh, yeah. I guess I do need to clean the shop. Now we actually get to wait for the knife. Yes, we do. A few hours later. Good morning. It's the next morning, which of course means our epoxy is cured. So from now out with this knife, it's just a matter of shaping the handle to the shape of the tang. I'm going to start with the belt sander because it's a lot faster and I have it. But if you don't have a belt sander, you can use one of these right here. This is a rasp, happens to be a Farrier rasp. The goal right now is just to remove all the excess material that's sticking way out from the tang. So I'm going to take it down to the shape of the tang, then we'll work on rounding those corners. Alright everyone, we have finished doing all the work we're going to do on the belt sander over there. It's all hand sanding now. I have the blade clamped in the vise here. It's looking really nice, but I know I have a lot of hand sanding to do, especially because I want to make sure and have a smooth transition on top of the blade here where the tang goes from the sanded tang to the etched spine. For most of the hand sanding, you'll be thankful that I'm going to put the camera on time lapse because I don't think you want to watch an hour and a half of hand sanding. But let's pull out our sandpaper and let's get sanding. This knife is finished, but just like normal, there's no way we can call it a knife till we've done some slicing and chopping. Let's see what it'll do. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Look at that! You know, I cannot say how satisfying this is. Okay, I gotta remember a camera's here. Now let's go see how well it chops some trees. Well, everybody, after chopping through limbs and even a hardwood trunk about 1.5 inches in diameter, this blade has 0 damage to it. It's still hair shaving sharp. I tried it on my leg because there's not enough hair left on my arm. I've tested out too many knives. But look at this. This is what I mean. It still just slices effortlessly. It is just beautiful. I think this is going to be my new everyday carry knife. Right now is probably when I should mention that tool steel that we forge welded in the center. This blade would not be performing anywhere near this well if we did not have that tool steel in the center. This is why I did it. The tool steel is what holds the edge. The Cable-Damascus would not have. But like this, oh, it's wonderful. Alrighty, it's done. I can't believe it. As always, I enjoy doing these projects, but you know what I enjoy even more? Is bringing you along on the process. I can't wait to do another project. What do you think it should be? But until I see you next time, forge on.